So I will say that Leo, a very interesting aspect for me, rules pizza too, because pizza is round, so we have the sun. And pizza was made for a queen, the Queen of Italy in the 800, which was Queen Margherita, hence the name Margherita. But pizza, after being this dish for the queen, which was approved and beloved by the queen, it was spread and it diffused itself around the people. So pizza is, in Italy at least, renowned as a food for the people, for the masses. It's very cheap. I mean, it's very simple ingredients. So there is that aspect of Aquarius being integrated even in Leonin food, which is amazing for me, honestly, to see. So if you find a pizza that's expensive more than a tot in Italy, everybody just gets mad, very mad. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we are all in with Leo. This is the most passionate sign of the zodiac. Especially about life, their own life, and being alive. Being in this form, in this reality. So, to start, we have this sun. Sun is its first domicile. So Leo starts with the sun as its first domicile, which gives its natural vitality, its sense of self. Leos have a lot of sense of self, and sense of aliveness, so being alive, literally being vitalistic energy. And you see, there is the Saturn exile, so if we have this vitality and ego, we don't have the Saturn, so we don't have the awareness of anyone else's ego. Leo is only really aware of its own ego, which is very particular. But they don't need to, and I'll explain why. And it has Ipsilon exalted. You see this Ipsilon is exalted, which is very funny because this is the literal planet of identity, and we don't know where it is. We cannot identify it, while the planet of confusion, Neptune, we do know where it is, which is very funny. This is the main Ipsilonian sign. This is Leo. So it has identity, as it says, which creates all of its problems, for the most part. So it gives it its excessive identification with itself. Leo excessively identifies with itself, which is very different from the arietical sun exaltation. So it's not egopathy, it's not I am the only one who is important in this world. Is I am the most important because I am me. So the self-importance of the Leo is not given by simply it existing, but rather by it existing in a particular way which is its own. So the validity of the Leonin ego is just purely self-identifying. And it does not have to do with survival. Leo does not care about survival. This is the sign that believes it's gonna live eternally. And the sign yearns for eternity. Those people refuse to die. If you have any Leo in your life, do you know how much they hate they hate dying? Like I have my grandma, which is Leo. She's like 94. She fell off. She almost died 4 times in a fucking month. She still kicks in, refuses to die with all of herself. She loves life that much. And this yearning for identity gives this sign its eternalistic nature. And Leo is not in the future, is not in the past, regardless of this moon that you might think gives it its past identity. This Leo is an eternal sign, so this sign wants to be eternal. It does not have a sense of past or future. The sign has so much of a sense of time that the sign is very impatient. It wants everything now and eternally. But it's not a now of Uranian nature, because Uranus is a child, but it's a now of eternally. So from the moment I am aware of it, I want it, and I want it forever. And eternal empires, Hitler got his Saturn in Leo, so he wanted his Third Reich to last for 1,000 years, like the Roman Empire, which is a Leonin signification we will read later. But Leo does this, he makes stuff want to last eternally. So when does time start? Time starts when life starts. So Leo says, I am life, so I start time, I measure time. And this sign with the Neptune in child, you see this, in fall, sorry. This sign with the Neptune in fall signifies the eternal war of this sign against any form of chaos, anything undefined. This sign does not like stuff it cannot define. Although that's more of a Virgo thing, Leo does it too. And anything most importantly different from them. This sign has the tendency to repress anything that is not specifically identical to them. So much of the tyranny and dictatorships are Leonin because they repress the freedom of expression, the multiplicity, the mutative quality of this Neptune, which makes everything not the same, because Ipsilon is all about making everything the same, reality identifying with itself. Well, we have the moon, second domicile, which is very interesting because it gives this sign its emotionality, infantilism. If you know, historically, kings are always known to have been quite infantile. There's the games of the king, all of those plays, all of those homages you have to offer the king in order to gain his favor. And also childhood is supposed to be the time of the highest attention you receive, so it's very clearly Leonin along with Cancer. There's that sense of childhood is attention, you know, and Leo wants all the attention. This is the sign about the attention. It gives you all the attention and it demands it. And Pluto is a child in Leo, right? Transparence, which is also the why of this sign not really desiring anything. It wants to indulge, rather. It does not want to desire for stuff. It wants to absorb it, to eat. There is earth in transparence here, which grounds this sign. So the eternal empire, you know, needs its foundations. The eternal cannot last eternally if there is no foundation in the ground, you know. It's also, this moon in the second domicile is the result itself of all the Leonin grandiose actions, which is memories. And you have the fall of Uranus. So Uranus falls, moon is in, so we have those witch waves, and Uranus kicks in no impulsivity. Leo is not really impulsive. It's already kind of decisive. Those people are not really indecisive. They know who they are. Why would they be indecisive? Makes no sense, right? They don't take opportunities. This is not an opportunistic sign. There is no sense of opportunities, and there is no sense of change, because Uranus is also change, you know. There is no sense of change, no sense of present, no sense of future. Everything is eternal, nothing changes. If you get Uranus in Leo, you change everything to change nothing. You want nothing to change, so you change stuff. And the transparency of it, other thing it does is hair. It is hair, which in Taurus it was the plants. In Leo is the hair, you know, the lion's mane. And the earth here gives Leo this hidden materialism. You know, luxury, obviously, in it's materialistic. It cannot just be grandiosity. It has to have a solidity to an extent, you know. So no, Leo also dominates luxury. History-wise, we have the Roman Empire. Who does not love the Roman Empire? So this is an empire that speaks for itself, obviously. It lasted thousands of years. The moment of the fall of the Roman Empire was considered by everyone, every Roman, impossible and outside of reality. They would have laughed at you if you told them the Roman Empire would fall, because Ipsilon is obviously eternal. So this very Leonin Empire is eternal. It must be. Some people still abide by saying it did not end. And I might add myself in this category. You know, Roman Empire political system very particular. In its republican stage, it was renowned to have been patrician based, so it has the Leonin prestige mechanic. So there is this sense of elitism. Leo can be quite elitistic, is not collectivist. But you know, obviously you have the opposition which must be integrated. So Roman Empire is very important because its skill is actually integrating all the collective conquered, all the given tribes it conquered into this identity mass of the Ipsilon. So this Neptune being consumed, and the Neptune will be all the different measurable and uncontrollable tribes, you know, they are all very separated from each other, which is Aquarius, this collective, which would not be Aquarius by themselves, but in the context of being conquered by Romans, it becomes Aquarius because it becomes this homogenized mass of tribes that must be brought into the Roman culture and converted culturally and not religiously. So, you know, the Roman Empire had its dictatorship system. So in times of crisis, they would elect dictators, which will last for several years until the crisis is over, because it needs to be a fixed leadership, and leadership is so very fixed. So the collective voting cannot take place because it's too slow, too unfixed, not fixed enough to take us through the crisis. The dictatorship will save Rome from corruption when the collective became noble and immoral. So after Rome conquered most of the Mediterranean, there was too much money, too much resources, not very much need to maintain the Stoic spirit, you know, that very frugal spirit which in Roman nature, which is more Virgo, of course, but we'll talk about that next time. So the collective became unnoble and immoral, so all the patricians became corrupt themselves or were replaced by this new ascendant class of merchants, which enriched themselves from the conquests, which will be ended by the Republic will be ended by Julius Caesar, which will probably has himself, you know, since is a Cancer Sun, probably has himself some Leonin aspects into his chart. I've not looked into it, but it must have. So, which will be saved or at least balanced back by Emperor Augustus, which is Virgo Sun. He's a Virgo Sun. So next time. But you know, a Roman Empire went from the worship of the ancestors to the Cancerian period. The Romans had this very particular cult, which was not even that popular in Greece, of worshipping their ancestors. They had these little altars and shrines in their homes, Cancer, you know, home, which they worship their ancestor. But then it switched up into the worship of the emperor. You know, this was the emperor, so they kind of slowly became imperial cultists, or at least the emperor wanted them to just worship him. So this Rome slowly tilted into Oriental absolutist monarchies, but of its own variant, because this is not a Taurian type of absolute monarchy. So I feed you, and you must follow me because I feed you. This is a very different type of absolute monarchies, which is I give you life itself. I give you the way to live itself, not just the food. So it's more coded like a tyranny. And then you have the diffusion of Mithraism, the slaying of the bull, which Leo obviously gives a square, a bad aspect to Taurus. And then you have Christianity, which is, those are two solar cults. And you know, the sun here. But evermore, Rome maintained its prestige and historical weight. Is an empire beloved by many, extremely skilled in incorporating this collective, this different Aquarius, which so much that eventually one of the emperors, which if I remember right was Caligula, will give citizenship to all the people in the empire. So what to say, Roma caput mundi. So Rome is the center of the world. That's how it's renowned. The city is called the Eternal City. If you here in Italy at least, we call like this. Biblical story-wise, we have the tribe of Judah, which is, as itself, the lion symbol. This is very simple to read. And I've gotten the rise of King David, which is also quite easy to do. Because, first of all, David literally means the beloved. So he is beloved. Leo is love. And I'll explain this later. But in the most literal sense, David and Goliath symbolizes the leadership obtained by pure strength of will. So we have Sun and Ipsilon combined. So we have this fixed energy, and the vitality itself, the ego enough to push through, which disregards persistent power, so the power of Saul, and rationality, that going against a behemoth, this massive Philistine man, is not very rational. He still did it and won. So, King Saul offered King David its armor and weapons, but it was too heavy and did not fit for David, so he just refused it. Saturn's also weight, so drop the weight. And Ipsilon, precision, this accurate precision, Ipsilon is also precision, gets Goliath dead with those throwing of the stones, So no opportunism here, just courage. By pure courage, he just destroyed him. So this granted him a lot of fame. People started to see him as a leader, potential leader to replace Saul, which was becoming corrupt and delirious. So this is a leader which leads by election, by self-election. So he proves himself. Leo needs to prove its validity, its power, its strength, its capacity. And is also not just elected, it's also fate. So courage and fate very tied, of course, in the context of Judaism. So, the faith in God that grants him the capacity to destroy Goliath by just pure strength of will, which is the faith in God in this context. And so we have that while Saul, I consider Saul Taurian, he's very jealous, he's very tied to his possessions. So when he conquers like that tribe that God told him to just burn to the ground, especially their trinkets, so like their religious jewelry, he did not. It was attached to it, so, and thus it said in the Bible it was cursed. So if you go to attached, we go from Taurian type of leadership here, more of like the Babylonians and Egyptians, King David, which gets the leadership by pure strength of will. So he has to won the favor of King Saul, and then there is the whole process. I'm not gonna say because it's too long. Read that part of the Bible. Then, he centralizes the kingdom of Israel in Jerusalem. So there is the centralization aspect in Leo. He does that, so you got that. And, the Aquarian mysticism, because Aquarius is a mystical sign, it's not just a rational sign, of the prophets contesting his tyranny and excesses. So Prophet Nathan, contesting his absolute rulership. So like he came to David to reprimand his adultery with Bathsheba. I don't know how she is called, but like the wife of his soldier friend, who he arranged the death of his friend by sending him in the front line so he could just take his wife, which is adultery in this context. And thus he contested this absolute rulership and hubris of this king, which is very different from Saul, because this is not material possession. This is the belief that David by himself can do anything, and there is no collective that he is guiding. It's just him. So there is the need to integrate this aspect in this sense. So this is the biblical story for today. So what does this sign rule? The sign rules leadership. First and for all, Leo, the king, leadership, which is elected, by the way. All leadership is elected. You do not have a type of leadership that is not elected. It just becomes dictatorial when the king refuses to step down, when it's too corrupt or is no longer necessary. Then it becomes fixed and dictatorial. But all leadership is elected. Education. So education is important for this sign. This is the sign that educates you, that tells you what to do. Not on a like knowledge level, but on a more like behavioral level. So a lot of teachers, you will think they are Sagittarius. They have something in Sagittarius too, usually. Like, it's very renowned. History has a lot of Leo 9th houses. Like Mussolini was a Leo 9th house. So like he teach before becoming the Duce of Italy. He taught French and like German in schools. So there is that aspect of education in Leo that is always present, and he will even say that his most fascist laws were the laws he made on public education. So there is this very strong tie of Leo to education. So watch out for all your teachers, they might be Leo. And domestication, so there is the domestication of both humans and animals, So all the circus, in the circus you have the Leo, all those domesticated animals, the show that has to be put on. Leo also rules the capacity of giving a show. Most showmen and showwomen have some degrees of Leo in their chart, some Leo aspects, or they're Leonin themselves. So they have the capacity to give a show, to make you feel important while you are on the show. If you are a guest, they do that too. Leo also rules reproduction. So there is the Leonin procreation that has both the ego, the sun, and the identity. So it is genetically very important, because Leo needs, the king needs his hair, and the hair must be as similar to the father as possible in order for the kingdom to last eternally. This sign wants everything to change for nothing to change. This sign says, the motto of this sign is, I am the best. And usually, the thing is that they usually are if they can prove it. So they must be put into the test of proving they're truly the best. If not, it's just vanity. It's not good, because the sign has the potential to really be the best. So the sign also rules loyalty, generosity. Leonins are very generous, not type of Taurine generosity when they just want you to feel good. It's a type of generosity that can be even more abundant than Taurus in resources, but it wants to be acknowledged, it wants to be thanked, it wants to be beloved, it wants its attentions, Honor, Leo also rules honor. So the capacity to fulfill the code of a morality code, Leo is very particular, because if you know, like if you read Harry Potter, Harry is Leo. Harry is Leo. His main strength is now his capacity with magic or anything like that, although he has some of it, is his morality, his sense of conduct, and his bravery. So his morality, which does not waver, and his bravery is what keeps him going through all the stuff he does, if you know Harry Potter. And this is true for pretty much every Leo in history, even the most evil ones. They are absolutely brave to a ridiculous degree sometimes. And Leo rules pride, of course. Or egocentrism, it's the same. I told you that Leo rules love. Why does it rule love? Because love in the Leonin sense, in the Latin sense, we have the word amor, amore, which means it's privative, so it's like not this, so it's like without that, because mors is death in Latin, so is without death. So life is without death. So love is life and is the absence of death in that sense. So the Leonin type of love is a love that it's for life itself. So for their own life and life itself. Leo rules the heart, which is obviously the center of the body energy-wise. And it does, don't get me wrong, have very strong connections with the brain. You know, if the brain does not send the heart its impulses, it dies. So there is an aspect of Virgo that's very important there too. A very strong tie with it. And you know, if everything must pass through the heart, so the heart is the center, you know. When you say you love somebody, you send them a heart. So it has that symbology, of course, you know. I also put in the rules chicken because the rules chicken goal, you know, was very Leonin too, much as like Italy itself. Even in the Roman times, Ptolemy would give Italy and Gaul, South France, so Gaul, the south part of France, Leo. Italy especially. Here everybody is hysteric. Here everybody is egocentric. It's fantastic. Everybody screams. You know, I'm kind of Leonin too. It's just embedded in the genetics here and in the culture. You know, so I will say that Leo, a very interesting aspect for me, rules pizza too, because pizza is round, so we have the sun. And pizza was made for a queen. The Queen of Italy in the 800, which was Queen Margherita, hence the name Margherita. But pizza, after being this dish for the Queen, which was approved and beloved by the Queen, it was spread and it diffused itself around the people. So pizza is, in Italy at least, renowned as a food for the people, for the masses. It's very cheap. I mean, it's very simple ingredients. So, you know, there is that aspect of Aquarius being integrated even in Leonin food, which is amazing for me, honestly, to see. So if you find a pizza that's expensive more than a tot in Italy, everybody just gets mad, very mad. And pizza must be made a specific way. You do not put ketchup on pizza, because if not, the Ipsilon of all the Italians just gets triggered in, and they hate you, me included. Ipsilon obviously rules air and oxygen. So, you know, the heart needs the oxygen, it pumps out this oxygen, it has this excess of the oxygen in the heart, you know. It must move, it must go around. And the Uranus itself that is consumed by the Leo in the second exile is the electric impulses it gets from the brain, which is used for the lunar function of the liquid of the blood itself, you know. Then we have Leo is a sign that's very exhibitionistic, but this is very different from the exhibitionism of Gemini. This is not an exhibitionism of multiple personalities or role plays or characters. This is an exhibitionism of self. Is the self is the center of the show? Like much of like you're hearing me now. I am the center of the show, of course. So there is a level of any type of show that is Leonin, because it needs somebody to be at the center. It works like this. So you have the exhibitionism of the self, which Lisa Morpurgo says everybody secretly desires or pretends to be King Louis the 15th, so, you know, the absolute king. And Leos don't feel real. If they don't eject energy all around them, if they don't project their rays, they don't feel real, they don't feel alive. It's very important for them to have a place to express themselves. Those people they spend incredibly lot. Seriously, it's ridiculous. Like Liz Amorpurgo even says, some of them don't like to get the lights off at night because Leo wants its light eternally, wants its sun eternally, so they sleep in the light. They need light to sleep, which is kind of weird for me. I'm not sure about this, but she says it. And like even the paying astronomical bills is part of their sense of grandeur, which is funny, very funny for me. And you know, Leo is the simple, Sun is simple, I am me, one thing, simple, Sun, and Saturn is many, many suns, many identities, many people, complex, Aquarius. So Leo is simple, Aquarius is complex. Leo is identical, and everything in Leo is identical, and everything in Aquarius is different. So you have the difference here of the Neptune. And Leo also said much more of the fifth house thing, though, to rule nocturnal life. So Leo rules nocturnal life, because where you can be the sun as a person in the night. So you become the center. There is all the vitality that comes out in the night, which honestly I don't really understand personally how this thing works, but it works like this. You will see lots of Leos loving light, and like nightlife, nightclubs are obviously quite Leonin, not just Scorpionic, although it's usually both. Especially like the cabarets of the 50s, etc. They all hate any sort of death because they are alive, and they identify with life so much. And they hate any sort of fear because they are brave, and they identify with bravery so much. Doing readings on Leo is very particular, because every time you say something that you try to rationalize it through Saturnian logic, they just identify immediately. So they're like, oh, there is this thing that Leo is. I say, Leo, not you. You are many things. And they're like, oh, I am this? No, I don't recognize myself in this. It's very funny for me, because they have that sense of identification so strong, they cannot help it. In conclusion, this is a very fiery sign, maybe the most fiery one, of proud and loyal people. Those people will be proud and loyal even if they don't have resources, even if they are poor. Leo still have that sense of expenditure which is astronomical. It's very particular, you know. There's the sense of luxury that is inherent in Leos. They want to spend, not all of them of course. If they have something like a Virgo aspect that moderates this aspect, it's not that much, but still. They will never really turn your back as long as you do what they want, or just you need to generally acknowledge them, you need to love them. It's very simple type of thing. They will teach you the strength of pure will. They will teach you the pure strength of will and courage. They can withstand anything. Absolutely, even your placements in Leo can withstand anything. Some Leos can be excessively prideful. Watch out for their excessive tendency, and then it's not vitality, it's just a very arrogant person that's very annoying. They are very capable of love, and once they drop the cult of identity, so they don't want you to identify with them as much, they have the capacity of being some of the most pleasant persons you will ever meet. Because it's just made like that, the sign, you know. There is the nurturing of that moon. There is the emotionality. So Leos are quite emotional. They end with emotion. The result of all their action is this emotion and memory. So the incarnate life itself So this is my explanation of Leo for today. Very simple sign to read, actually. This is nothing like Cancer. Cancer was much harder. So this is everything. So see you next time.